Now, Dak Prescott did release a statement, this in regards to the comment he made about the officials or people throwing trash on the field, the media correcting him after that disaster on Sunday, saying, well, it was they were throwing at officials, and he said, oh, credit to them. They were frustrated like we were, so on and so forth. He got a lot of heat. NBA officials, came out. And, of course they did.
That makes sense.
Well, I mean, look, it's a slow time in the gambling world, so of course they've got time on their hands.
Yeah, are they done fixing the NBA games? Now it's that they want to stick their head.
Yeah, they don't know whether or not Kyrie's going to play at home, so they're not sure whether they can get a good line on the game. So they decided to take a shot at Dak Prescott. Now, Dak Prescott went to social media last night and wrote the following: I deeply regret the comments I made regarding the officials after the game on Sunday. I was caught up in the emotion of a disappointing loss, and my words were uncalled for and unfair. I hold the NFL officials in the highest regard and have always respected their professionalism and the difficulty of their jobs. The safety of everyone who attends a game or participates on the field of a sporting event is a very serious matter. That was a mistake on my behalf, and I am sorry. So Dak is sorry.
What a well-written piece by Dak's agent.
I thought so, too.
Well done by his agent.
Wait, you think Dak's agent?
That's how this works.
You think Dak's agent's got his login information on Twitter? You think he's
his login?
Yeah.
I don't think that he has login. I think they said, hey, make sure you post this on Twitter before you go off. Calling for fans to throw stuff at the officials. All right, probably a bad look, Dak. Like, we're going to lose our Greek sponsorship. What is it, Oikos? He's like, we don't want to lose Oikos. That's a big sponsorship for us, amongst other things that you got.
Well, you remember how he got that because Cam Newton lost his because he made the comment about the woman talking about routes.
I thought he was John Stamos's. That was who John Stamos wanted. He was like, no, I'm done with Dak. All right, I'm done with Cam. I'm moving on to Dak. I thought that was John Stamos's.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, that's a good point.
I
have no idea. Did John Stamos, does he have some sort of a tie to that company or?
I'm pretty sure I've seen John Stamos in an Oikos commercial.
If
not that, I don't want to mix this up, okay? Because I know where you're going. I know you're thinking, Greek yogurt, John Stamos Greek, that's racist. It might have been another yogurt company, but I can promise you, John Stamos, he has indeed, and if we need to, we can go to our yogurt expert, all right? Lee throws yogurt all the time around.
Oh, Jesus.
We can go to our yogurt expert, Lee.
Good God.
Lee to lap to see if John Stamos has he advertised or marketed any other yogurt company.
So let's we are going to get this set up and ready to rock. Make sure Lee's got his mask on, and we are all socially distanced here in the studio. Just want to make sure if we're going to talk yogurt here on the air this early in the morning, we've got to have all our the T's crossed and the I's dotted. I got to make sure everything is taken care of and underway. By the way, speaking of yogurt and Greek, we will have Petros Papadakis coming up in hour 3. I'm sure he can weigh in on this conversation as well too.
Imagine him weighing in on this. That is going. Oh my gosh! All right, let's buckle up for that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun conversation. But in regards to Dak Prescott, who comes away from this game,
are we just moving on from?
I was trying I was vamping because we were having some issues, some technical issues.
There was some technical difficulties, but I can confirm that from 2013 through 2014, John Stamos was in fact the Oikos guy.
There you go. All right.
Not only that, but there was outrage. There was a little bit of controversy because he did a Super Bowl ad, and I guess it was kind of a tad bit borderline racy. The way they used the Oikos yogurt.
Well, I mean, listen,
apparently, the way it was being. Well, okay, never mind.
I don't know what halftime show you were watching, but
I didn't say halftime show.
Okay,
I didn't say halftime show. See, you are now drawing conclusions that do not put things in my mouth that I did not say because.
Oh, we trying to make this the Justin Timberlake Jackson deal? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know. Listen.
All I'm gonna say is I'm not Dak Prescott, so I will not be issuing apologies for anything that I say or do. So don't have anybody coming after me.
What do we think of if we just had to grade the season for Dak? If we just come away from this year and we go, all right, Dak Prescott season as a whole, if we got to give him a grade, how do we feel about it? Because I happen to think that the Cowboys come away from this year going, Yeah, we let one get away because there was an opportunity to do some things in a conference that felt like, although Green Bay was the best team, you play this the right way. I like Dallas. I think they could have gone into Tampa Bay and win next week. Maybe they get to an NFC title game. We just roll the dice and see what happens. But it feels like this was an opportunity with Dak Prescott to prove a point and make a point, and to lose the way they did and have his comments come out afterwards. This feels like this is going to be a rough off season of anticipation for next year for the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
This was, you can make the case, his best statistical year. I know he wasn't on pace to throw for the same amount of yards per game and all that as he was last year before the injury. But, touchdowns, interceptions, all of that. His completion percentage was the highest it's ever been. He didn't quite throw for as many yards, but this was, I would say, maybe his best season. I should say maybe. It was his best season, since he's been a starting quarterback in the NFL. So, it wasn't always pretty. They've had some rough patches where they had a hard time scoring points. But so when you say that, you go, wait, hold on a second. They were the number one scoring offense in the NFL. They were number one in yards. So what do you mean they had a hard time scoring points? Here's what I'll remember this season about for the Dallas Cowboys. They were a team that liked to beat down on bad teams and run up scores on bad teams. And against the good teams, they struggled to score. That's literally what they were this season. If you comb through their record and you go through, how they played versus the bad opponents and how they played versus the good opponents. And some people would say that they're kind of a front runner, right? If they get off to a good start, they're going to have a good game. If they get off to a slow start, they struggle really to adjust and to figure out how to pick things back up. I think that's the next step for this team if they want to move forward. And what LaVar said earlier, if they want to, not have this be a deal where they never get past a certain point in the playoffs, they've got to figure out a way of adapting and adjusting, much like Dak Prescott did once he got more information about who the fans were actually throwing the bottles and trash at. The officials, not their actual own players. So, yeah. If you notice how he adapted and audibled pretty quickly out of that.
Well, come on, yeah, that's how it works.
I think, having a 12-5 year, you cannot say that he had a failing campaign, other than the fact that the biggest factor working against Dak Prescott or any other player at that plays for the Dallas Cowboys is winning a Super Bowl. That is the expectation. That is what Jerry Jones has built a behemoth brand off of, is that the Cowboys – it's so amazing how he's convinced his fan base to be in total like just buy-in and just craziness around the success of the Cowboys, and has been able to leverage it through the 3 Super Bowls that he wasn't at least what people will say he wasn't directly a part of, and has been chasing that with his fans ever since. So that is the level of expectation that every single person that looks at Dallas has, because that is what they've built their brand off of. And that's what's going to be difficult here, because while you can look at this as a positive season for them, they took a positive step in being better because their defense improved. But if you're looking at it from holistically what the expectation is for the Dallas Cowboys, if they don't win the Super Bowl, you're always going to look at the season and question who's there, who's coaching, who's the player, and it's always going to come back to the quarterback. And that's ultimately going to be Dak's undoing if he's not able to get to a Super Bowl.
We talked about how if you were a Kyler Murray skeptic or a Cliff Kingsbury skeptic, you went back to Monday night, and we said this yesterday. Like, that was the game you point to say, see, told you I was right. Man, aren't these the games, like on Sunday, where if you were one of these people who said they shouldn't give Dak that much money, Dak doesn't deserve that sort of quarterback money, aren't these the type of games you look back and go, so wait a second, You couldn't deliver at home. You couldn't have a lead one time for 1 second in that game against a 49ers team who was dealing with injuries and a quarterback with one thumb and, as it turns out, a sprained shoulder. Like, that's just a bad look. And it feels like if the pressure was there and the conversation was there last offseason about why he doesn't deserve the contract, this is only going to be a lot of people who have a lot to say this season based on how it finished out. I just think they're in a tough spot, and it's going to be a rough one there for the Dallas
they're
Cowboys.
One of the most hyped teams in the NFL.
Yes.
If the reality is they're never going to live up to any of the hype or any of what people think or believe about them until they win a Super Bowl. That's the standard that there's a bunch of Dallas Cowboys fans who grew up with Troy Aikman winning Super Bowls, and that's the standard they hold them to. And then there's another younger generation that they saw Tony Romo have relative success. They think that's success for the Cowboys. I mean, if they're not careful, they're going to lead to another generation that's like used to this team just either being that or even worse. Yeah, that's the truth of the matter. Like if Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones thinks they're building a Super Bowl contender, you actually have to get to the Super Bowl. You actually have to get to the NFC Championship game.
It's a great point.